Our pillar edition workshop on communication. We had some little technical difficulties, but we overcame like we always do. Doc, today we're going to be going over what, Doc?
Let's see. So today, guys, we are going to be talking about how to communicate, the importance of communication, and how learning how to communicate, how that can change everything, how that can project who you actually are, project your identity. Not just that, but also protect you emotionally. Having learned how to set out your boundaries and learn how to engage with people and learn how to learn how to talk to people so they can actually receive what you're saying, right? Because our voice and the ability to communicate, that's one of the most powerful tools we have. And it's one of the most under-trained skills that we have as well. We go based off of where we grew up and how our parents talked to us and all those things like that, not recognizing those are all poor examples. And we wonder why we struggle to communicate with our spouses or our kids or our coworkers or our employees or other businessmen. We think we have to be super aggressive in order to get our point across, and we have to yell and scream. And I'll tell you, sovereign, you don't have to do that. I want you to think of a king. Which king do you know who's sovereign, who knows he has all power, knows he has all authority, is doing all that? They're yelling and screaming and making all this noise and doing all these things. No real king, no real sovereign man does that, right? So we're going to be learning how to communicate so that you can project that sovereignty so people know. And when you project that sovereignty, you know what comes with that? Respect. People will speak to you the right way. People will treat you the right way. You'll be able to filter out the people who are bad and then allow the people who are good into your life. So there's a lot that goes on with that. And so that's what we'll be talking about today.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Guys, if you're watching this on TikTok, we reached a certain amount of followers, which is cool. But on the slide section, you can go over to Boundaries and Brotherhood Facebook page, Boundaries and Brotherhood YouTube. You're going to be a slide because it's going to be a free workshop on how to get communication so that you can have everything what Doc said. Have control of your emotions, how to active listen, how to do things to gain the respect that you truly deserve and live in your potential of being a sovereign man, being the 11th man. So if you're watching this on TikTok, head on over to Boundaries and Brotherhood and you're going to see the slides. Doc,
we ready for
I'm going to head on over. I'm going to turn on the slides right now, guys. So if you're watching this, you're going to hear us talk. But if you want to watch this on the slideshow, head on over to my personal page, Gordon Watt. Not Gordon, Facebook on Gordon Watt.5, or go on to boundariesandbrotherhood.com YouTube channel, and it's streaming live on the workshop. Doc, what are some of the information we're going to be giving today?
Wait, hold on. Before we hop into that, where, if people want a copy of the slides, where should they go to? Because we can
they should go on, leave us a comment. If you're on TikTok, leave us a comment on the Boundaries and Brotherhood page. Put in the section, on the chat section, slides. We'll give you a PDF to go to a Google Doc and you can look at it. Or I might turn it into an e-zine, a magazine.
We're here to add value. We're here to add value, right? We're here to change your lives, help you guys men to become sovereign in your own lives, in any situation you're in. So,
all right, Doc. The helm is in yours. Press that play button, and I'll just do an ad lib for myself. Guys, please, we want you. We have a lot of comments right now saying thank you for the content. Thank you for lifting me up. Thank you for all this stuff. Please leave a comment. We just don't want you to undo yourself for no reason. This is why we have our workshop. This is our third workshop for the year. Every month we do one. Now let's get into it. Boom.
All right. Excellent. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. So we are on the third pillar. And unfortunately, guys, I can see you at TikTok, but I can't see you anywhere else. So Gordon will be watching for the comments and things of that nature. Gordon, just let me know if anything comes through.
I'm going to put the chat on right now.
This workout, that was important. This workshop, right? This workshop is, as you can see, it's called Articulating Your Sovereignty, all right? As I said before, your voice is your instrument of your identity. That is how you let people know who you are, right? Because actions are important. I know people say actions speak louder than words, but make no mistake at all that your words are extremely powerful, and words can move millions, right? So it's really important that you know how to articulate yourself and let it be known who you are, what you'll stand for, what you believe in, and what you won't tolerate. And so we'll go
Mm,
through all this today. All right. All right. So I love this slide. See here, it says you cannot lead what you cannot articulate, right? Ask yourself this: if you ever had a leader, if you were ever under any authority, and that leader could not articulate their vision, they could not tell you what they needed, they could not tell you where you guys were going, how could you follow somebody like that? How could you follow someone who cannot let you know what they see and where they're trying to envision, where they're trying to go? So if you know that's the case, then you know for you'd be sovereign in your own life, in your own relationships. You must be able to articulate yourself. It can't just be up here. You have to know how to say in a way where it will be received, because you have to understand the purpose of communication is for understanding. It's to convey a message in a way where the other person understands. So if you cannot articulate yourself, you cannot lead. And this is huge for us as men, because by God's design, a big part of what we're supposed to be is leaders. That's
right.
critical. So it's critical to make sure that we know how to articulate ourselves, how to get our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, get them all together, and they convey the message so the other person understands exactly where we're coming from. Gordon,
Hey
I don't know if
guys, if you're watching this on live and stuff, if you have any questions, please leave comments. It'll pop up on the screen. We'll get to it after the video and stuff like that. But today's session, guys, because it's a free workshop brought to you by FCS, LLC, and Boundaries and Brotherhood, please, if you have any type of question, leave them in the comments. We'll put them up on the screen. We'll get to them. I'll write them down, because we just want you to live in your sovereign life and become confident with all the skills that Doc's going to give you.
Yeah. And I just want to read this one line from here. If anyone who can see the slide, but if you cannot, want to read this one line, because I think it's just so incredibly powerful. And I've been there before. A man with strong boundaries, but poor communication. So he knows how he wants to be treated, and he won't allow people to treat him any kind of way. But poor communication is a king trapped behind his own walls. Because if you cannot articulate, if you cannot communicate, you cannot connect. So it's great if you're like, hey, I got strong boundaries. A lot of it's like, I'm stoic and I got to be on my own and handle my own business and all that stuff. I'm not going to connect with anybody and all these things like that. That's great. But as we've talked here before, right, and the whole part of brotherhood is that we as men are not designed to be alone. We're not. It doesn't matter what you think. Doesn't matter how many YouTube videos you watched about being a lone wolf and being a Sigma and being stoic and all that stuff like that. I'm sorry, that's all stuff is well and good in the right context. But in reality, we're not designed to be alone. We're not designed to do it alone. There's been no empire, no kingdom, no business that's ever been done singularly by one man, by himself, without any kind of influence. None. Even Jesus had the disciples.
Mm-hmm.
If God needed disciples, then guess what? No one's above God, so everybody else needs it. And as always, if you're not a believer, it doesn't matter, right? Jeff Bezos didn't do what he did by himself. Mark Zuckerberg didn't do what he did by himself. Donald Trump didn't do what he did by himself. He didn't become president by himself. You can go all down the line, right? Dr. Eric Thomas didn't do it by himself. Tony Robbins didn't do it by himself. There's not one man that has influenced this world that got to that position solely and totally by themselves. So it's critical that you know how to communicate, so you're not trapped behind your own walls, but you know how to go out the gate and who to let in the gate. So let's go on, because I'm probably getting ahead of myself as I normally do.
Doc, let me ask you this, Doc.
Yes.
What are some of the problems you see men having why does it happen that way? Because you have to address the problem why men are not communicating clearly, or reason why is because last week we just did a show on the alpha and the beta, the manosphere, right?
Yeah.
And is it communication because you were taught that way, or is it because that's what you were seeing from old age beliefs?
Because, well, Gordon, if I can just be honest, this is not just a man problem; it's a woman problem too.
It's a right? Human problem.
It's an everybody problem, right?
Yeah.
And it comes from the same source, we don't know how.
Okay.
Our parents don't know how. Their parents didn't know how. You track it
Correct.
all the way back, and no
Right.
one knew how. So if they don't know how, all we're doing is repeating the same dysfunctional communication patterns over and
Yes.
over again. Now, it might
Yes.
look different. The dysfunction looks different in men than women. Women like to talk a lot. Men don't like to talk at all, right? Both is bad. Both is bad, right? Articulation's about knowing what you want to say, know what message you're trying to get across, and then
Right.
knowing how to get it across, right? That's what articulation, and we never learn that. You know,
Okay.
as children, you're told to shut up, listen, and just do as I say. You know, we as children, we get a whole bunch of you statements. You're always messing up. You always do this. You're so lazy. And so what we do, unfortunately, we train our children in poor communication and they carry that on. And the thing is, Gordon, this isn't just at home, it's in school too. There's poor
Yep. Yep.
communication there between adults and children, between children and children. It's poor, it's poor there. So if you spend the first 18 years of your life being trained to communicate poorly, what and you never learn how to do it after that, then what do we expect to happen? We're gonna use a lot
Right.
of the same,
Right.
especially all those other contexts, right? Because now we as men, we're not supposed to open up and share, or we're scared to share because you don't know how to convey our emotions the right way, or we're afraid we're gonna be ridiculed. So now you have our men shutting down and not opening up, and then when we do open up, sometimes it's weaponized against us. So now you have all this other dysfunction, and then now communication is the furthest thing from our mind. We're looking
Yep.
at everything else. And unfortunately, that's why, Gordon, you know, we talked about the alpha beta thing last week. That's why that message is so powerful, because it doesn't require you to look at what the real issue is, which is the communication part, right? Learn how to articulate yourself, learn how to state your boundaries, things like that. What it does is it amplifies all the other things like we talked about last week. You know, it's not saying making money's bad, taking care of your body's bad. It's not saying that stuff is bad, or having a high position. It's not saying that stuff is bad. It's only bad if it's being used to cover up dysfunctions that need to be taken care of. And unfortunately, communication is one of the main things we struggle with in society, and no one's talking about it. No one's talking about it.
I mean,
So
I'll give you a perfect. I'll give you a perfect example, right? It's like a communication. Like, since I'm going through all these checkups and all this stuff for all my things, right? What's happening right now is I need to communicate with my doctor what's going on with my body. And if I don't communicate clearly, right, how can I get the the medication, the fixing to sustain my life? And it's the
yeah,
same thing with relationships, with talking to other. I need to articulate what is happening with me clearly without being trying to be the tough guy. Because the
yeah,
tough guy, I have nothing wrong with me, doc. I'm still benching this and that, squatting this and that. But he's like, but what about the inside? I'm
oh
like,
yeah,
okay, yes. So that's the same thing. You mean that's why I want to say that and take out the slide for a minute, because this way, now we're going to show you guys. If you're watching this on TikTok, head on over to Boundaries and Brother on YouTube to see the slideshow and the workshop, because Doc's going to show you basically what it is emotionally, how it's being done, and what you can do about it to have the outcome you want. Right?
yeah. All right. So if anyone who is on any other platforms, you can see the slide, right? And so it talks about there's a choke point in the nervous system. There's a choke point for us when it comes to our needs and our identity and things of that nature, right? And so I want you, if you look at it, it says your internal beliefs, right? When you have the wrong beliefs, as you see here, it says like, I don't matter, my needs are a burden, love must be earned, safety requires control. Because we don't know how to communicate, because we don't know, we're not doing that the right way, this is how it comes out with our communication, right? And so it comes out with silence and withdrawal. It comes out with chronic apologizing or people pleasing. It comes out with performing and appeasing other people. It comes out with explosive reactivity. So the way so when it says the communication is the downstream from identity, your identity is going to manifest itself in the words that you're saying and the way you're communicating. That's what's going to happen, right? So there's no way around it, right? And it says right here, you cannot speak sovereignty until you fundamentally believe you have the right to. So if your beliefs, right, and your identity is telling you that you're not worth anything, you have no value, nobody cares, nobody loves you, you have to work for love, all those things, that's what's going to come out in your communication. Because
Right.
as we talked about in previous, workshops and podcasts, right? You can't get away from what you believe. You can't get away from it. So and what you believe, it comes out. And I'll give you the quick CBT version, right? So you have your core belief, right? Your core belief creates what's called what I call it's your perspective. What is your perspective? Your perspective is the filter through which events go through, right? Because events have no value outside of what you give them, and you give them value through your perspective, through your belief, right? So your belief is there. The event happens, it filters through your perspective. Once it filters through your perspective, now you're going to start thinking. So, for instance, I don't matter is the belief. An event happens where your wife forgets to text you back for whatever reason. Now you're thinking, oh my gosh, see, I knew I wasn't worthy of love. She doesn't care about me. All these, those are your thoughts. Now you're feeling hurt. Now you're feeling sad. Now you're feeling disrespected, all those things. And then what happens on the other side with your communication? Now you're shutting down. Now you're silent. Now you're trying to ask her, oh, what's wrong? Did I mess up because you didn't text me? Now you're going above and beyond and people pleasing. Or now you're going to blow up. Oh my gosh, you better text me back. You're probably cheating on me, whatever. You can't escape from it, right? Your words are a window into actually what your identity really is.
Yep.
So I won't beat that horse, but it's just important for you guys to understand that you cannot escape your beliefs, and you can actually see your beliefs through actually the words that you're saying. Because if you are people who really believe in themselves, they believe they matter. They don't believe that they believe that people are there to help and their needs are not a burden. So they ask for help. People that believe that love is given freely, people that believe that safety doesn't require necessarily control. They have different ways to look. Those things going to show up differently. It's going to show up as confidence. It's going to show up as being assertive. It's going to show up as letting your needs be known and your emotions be known without having any type of explosive reactivity. It's going to show up with you asking questions instead of making conclusions and having resentment.
Ooh.
So it's really important to understand. If you really want to know what your identity is, look up the words you're saying. What are you saying about yourself? What are you saying about others? What are you saying about the world? Right. So that's essentially why communication is downstream from your identity.
No, I mean, and part of challenging, part of working with us on a coaching level or getting you in a different way is learning how to change those beliefs so you can have actions that you can be proud of by having behaviors that can change your destiny, right? Because if you can change this belief and communicate well and work from the inside out so that everything is coming out correctly and your viewpoint, life changes really great. Even if you're talking to your kids, people in school, in your workplace, if you're a manager, if you're all this stuff tends, because if your belief of the world and perspective is really different, it'll come out in your communication. And if you don't know how to change that, you are through. And then in my case, for people get hurt and they hold you to your word for it, right? Yeah. And that's the bottom line for it. Because now where you can take some situations and turn it into a positive is learning and showing other people how to do this so they can be confident about themselves, to become the 11th man, to communicate, to articulate, like Doc said. And that's what we want to show, because all of the stuff that you've been taught as a child, this is how I teach my kids, because I'm breaking that whole cycle of where like Doc said a couple podcasts ago, right? Yeah, his son, he don't care about whatever people think, but he's still got to comb his hair. I'm at that stage right now in my kids, right? Which is a good thing, because you got to learn to break that cycle of that alpha mentality and how this but we have workshops of that. We have workshops for that. And guys, if you want this PDF or this slideshow, please comment on YouTube and our Facebook, Boundaries and Brotherhood, and get them. Doc, do you want to go over each single one or no? Oh, here we go. No, the biology of the voice. Perfect. I just
we'll play it by ear. We'll play it by ear.
Yeah, beautiful.
Right. And maybe we'll go quick on some of them. So all right. So this one says the biology of the voice, safety precedes expression. We must stabilize the nervous system before we select vocabulary. And essentially what this is all saying, it's just a fancy way of saying we need to emotionally regulate. You cannot communicate from a place of dysregulation. You cannot. Nice. I tell my couples that all the time, the men I work with all the time. If you are starting to get upset, you need to abandon ship. You need to walk away. You need to say, I can't do it right now. It's not asking permission. It's not saying, please, Can I walk away because I'm starting to get
No.
upset? It's not that. I've
Nope.
got to a point where I can no longer communicate. I need to leave. We'll come back
That's a
and
good
finish
thing.
time. You got to understand yourself, right?
Yeah.
You got to be able to regulate yourself. You got to know what you're feeling in the moment in real time. Mindfulness is critical for this, right? And so part of it, like you see here, right? The breath. This is something you should be practicing every single day until your nervous system knows the trigger for calm. I'm telling you right now, if you practice it every single day, I'm not talking about for hours and hours, right? I'm talking about you just take 5 minutes every day and just practice deep breathing, right? Here's the 4-5-6/7. I usually call it the 3-4-7. Whatever you do, some people do box breathing, whatever it is, whatever breathing technique you want to use, you must practice it, because once you practice breathing, you train your nervous system that when I take a deep breath, that means to calm down. Once you can start training your nervous system that way, right? It's called your vagal tone. Once you can train your nervous system that way, then guess what happens? Now, when you feel yourself rising up, you take a breath, it calms things down.
Come down.
It
Yep.
allows you on this third part to have cognitive access. And again, that's just a fancy way of you could use your skills. You could use your communication skills. You could be aware of the moment. But what happens is if you don't do this, if you don't calm yourself down, if you don't emotionally regulate, you know what happens? All your skills go away. You completely forget them. Gone. It's gone, right? And now you're right back to your base primal form where you're yelling, screaming, or shutting down or running away and all these things like that. So it's critical. And this is something that's important as well, because that base form, even if you haven't been like that for a long time, don't think that you can't get back to that point. You
Oh,
can
it happens all the
always
time.
get back to that point. We're talking about your primordial stuff that's been hardwired into you, keeping
Yeah.
you safe. That monster could always come back out. The
It's
goal in conversation is to not let it come out, because that monster is not designed to communicate. That monster is designed to fight.
Right.
That's what that monster is designed to do. And you're not trying to fight your children. You're not trying to fight your wife. You're not trying to fight your employees or your boss. That's not the goal. The goal is to convey the message that you have within you to that person in a way that they understand it. Right. So it's
100%
important
right.
that you
Yep.
work on your breathing, right? And if we were in like a live workshop, I would actually stop here and we would actually go through some breathing so you guys could actually feel what that peace feels like on the inside.
Give us a mini one for the people that what would you do a mini thing besides the breathing techniques and everything else? What would be some of the things in case people are listening on TikTok right here that can't see the slides, and I don't have the slides up right now, that they could do so that they could want more later on by working with us?
Well, I don't know if I necessarily have a mini thing, but I would just say just practice breathing, right? I would just say this, just keep it real simple. Just breathe in for 3 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, release for 7 seconds, right?
Cool.
So just breathe
Yep.
in for 3, hold. I'm not going
Mhm.
to do it now, but for the sake of
Yeah.
time, breathe in
This
for
is
3, you hold it, and I find it's better to actually close your eyes, because when you
okay.
take away the outside stimuli, it makes you're focused on your internal state, right? And so you close your eyes, you breathe in for 3 slowly, right? So we're not hyperventilating. Right? All this is nice and slow. You breathe in for 3 slowly, you hold for 4, then you slowly release for 7, right? So your lungs are empty. And I would just say repeat that for 3 rounds, just
Cool.
for something that small, right? So yeah, but it's critical. If you can't regulate your body, you can't have a conversation. You can't engage with
Beautiful.
people.
And then that comes a lot because that's when people get temper, and you're talking with somebody that has 1,000 hours of anger management. So it's like when you learn how to do this stuff, basically to get the communication across by not being angry and having that tone come down, it works great, guys.
Yes.
And guess what? You start commanding the respect that you deserve instead of trying to earn the respect that you want.
Yes. All right.
Side.
All right. So
Let's get that
we won't
slide
go.
up here.
So the communication archetypes, right? So you have the person who's passive, right? We call them the ghost. And the ghost is, as it says here, they fear conflict and rejection, right? And so what are they going to do? They're going to operate with silence, withdrawal, people pleasing. And what's going to build up is resentment, isolation, perceived weakness, right? That's what's going to happen. You've seen it. Maybe you've been that guy,
Yep.
right? Where you're building up resentment because it's like, oh, I'm not getting what I want on this other side of me doing all this stuff. Or I'm working so hard, or I'm a good man, or you see the guy that's passive, and you guess what? People look at him, even other men look at him as, oh, they're weak. That's a weak man. I can have my way with them and say whatever I want and do whatever I want, right? So there's that part, right? We don't want to be the ghost, right? There's no woman's attracted to a ghost, or anything along those lines. Maybe sometimes in the beginning, oh, he's so nice, he's this, he's that.
Yeah, they don't
then
want
that
that.
goes away, right? The desire dies, and it's like, what? But I was a good guy.
Chad. They call them Chads. Chads.
Yeah, not like no, those aren't Chads. Chads will
No,
be
those
more
are not Chads. Yeah. No, no.
right. Which we'll get to in a second. So now the dictator, right? That's the guy that's super aggressive, right? But the thing about guys like that is there's a lot of fear and insecurity in guys like that, right? And it's
absolutely
fear, powerlessness, and vulnerability, right? So what do they want? They want to attack. They want to control. They're really reactive. Sometimes they use manipulation and things like that. Like they'll do that because they're trying to keep from people either seeing their insecurity and seeing how weak they are, or so what they're trying to do, they're trying to control everything around them. Because if I can control everything around me, it can't hurt me, right? And so that's why they use those intimidation techniques. But ultimately, what is it when it comes to relationships? There's fear, artificial compliance. You think you have friends, but you really don't. The deep disconnection. You can't really open up to everybody. You're in a room full of people, and maybe you seem all like everybody's looking at you, but the reality of the situation is no one really likes you. No one wants to be around you. You're still alone at the end of the day. Yeah, maybe you get a lot of women, but your bed's still empty
for the wrong reasons, though.
Yeah, for the wrong reasons. And there's still no love, though. You still feel weak. You still feel powerless. You still feel like you're vulnerable. And so this armor and this shell is there to keep you safe, right? So this is how you're communicating. You're coming out with all that aggression, but really you're trying to keep people away because you're scared of being hurt. Ultimately, that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so, but ultimately what we want to do is we want to become the sovereign man, right? The 11th man, right? This is the man who knows his self-worth. He's loved. He knows his truth. He knows what he stands for. He's calm. He's clear. He's concise. He's assertive. He's honest. You know exactly what you're getting with this guy. You can't rattle him. You can't threaten him. You can't do anything like that. He's not going to be overly, trying to people please or things like that. He's going to have his standards, right? He's going to have the standards, right? A man like this is someone who can experience deep intimacy. And I'm not just talking about in relationships with the women, but I'm talking about with other people as well. They can have a deep relationship. This is someone you can trust, you can count on. This is someone who's going to lift you up, build you up, right? Mutual respect. He's not tearing you down. He's building you up, and you're down, and you think nobody likes you, cares about you, whatever like that. He's the one that's going to be lifting you up like, hey, come on, man, you can do it again. He's authentic through and through. He's not scared of his vulnerability. He's not scared of his shortcomings and his failings. He can own them and stand in them and walk in them and be like, yeah, I used to be like you too, but it's okay. We can get over this. We can get through this. He's not trying to act like he's something that he's not. This is how we want to conduct ourselves, gentlemen. We want to be the sovereign man. We want to be the 11th man. That's who we want to be.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. When you look at this slide, guys, if you're not watching the slide, I don't have the slides up right now, but I want you to understand one thing, right? No matter what phase you're in as a man, whether you're the ghost, whether you're the aggressive type, you could always change, right? Because this is why we do this. Because if you don't understand where you're at or what you have to do, or you think everything is perfect in your life, but you're not being honest with yourself, you don't have the emotional stability to do that because you're only convincing yourself and you're lying to yourself about this and what you want, and you cannot force it. Guys, in fact, I was just talking to one of our friends. It took years on how much work I put into myself to get to the point where I can regulate all this stuff 98% of the time. Do I have my days? Of course, but we're all human. But at the same time, I'm cognizant of everything that I want because I always wanted to be the person that Doc just described, right? Because if you look at the slides, right, when you look at everything that's afforded to you and everything else, right, it doesn't take much, but it does take a lot, right? It doesn't take much, but it does take a lot because you need to have all these things that you've gone through in life and to find the error in your ways, not just physically and psychologically and emotionally. You must have to do that so that you can understand where you're going, right? You want to be that sovereign man that Doc talks about in the slide here in the 11th man. It's all about being that calm, confident, rooted. And guess what? People gravitate to that
Yeah.
very highly, right? How do you think like leadership roles change when you can have everything that you always wanted, but not trying to force it? Being the aggressive type, being the ghost, you could have it all. It's not that hard, but it's something that it's so easy to say, but it's actually hard to change that behavior and do. This is why we offer these things, right? Doc,
Yeah.
slide.
And I'll say this, even before we go on to the next one, I want you, if you guys can see the slides, if you notice that for
Oh,
the ghost and the dictator, they both have the same issue. They both
absolutely.
have fear. They
Yep.
both have
Yep.
fear. And
Yep.
when you have fear, that's going to guide all of all your beliefs, all your value. It's going to guide everything you do. You're going to be terrified. And it's going to guide what you do, right? So as much as the dictator might hate on the ghost and the ghost might hate on the dictator, you guys are facing the exact same issue. It's the fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of paralysis, fear of vulnerability. We're not supposed to be scared. We're not supposed to have fear, right? But we won't go into that. That might be a video for another time, right?
Let me put
Okay.
this up.
Okay. You
Go
got
ahead.
it?
Got
Okay.
it.
All right. So the hierarchy of communication sovereignty, right? So the first level is what it says is silence, right? We don't speak. I absorb, right? I'm just here. I'm taking it in. Maybe I'm shutting down. Maybe there's some stonewalling there. But maybe that's where it starts as far as that's concerned, right? But then as we level up, as we learn how to convey ourselves and we learn how to process things and we know how to regulate our emotions, and once we learn our boundaries, we take another step up, right? So now we're self-oriented, level 2, right? I say what I want regardless of impact. This is better, and I've been here before. This is better. This is the person who's now, when they get mad, they yell and they scream and they say all the things they always wanted to say, right? But it's still not being conveyed the right way. So it's getting out there, right? It's getting out there. However, the person's not receiving it. So it's a step up. It's better, but it's not there yet. We're not there yet, right? Now it's almost like a sword that you're trying to temper and hammer out, right? We're getting there, right? We're hammering it out now. Level 3, right? You're assertive, right? So you say what you want with clarity, and you have your boundaries, right? So now you're able to better convey what's going on inside of you, right?
Okay.
You're being able to convey it better so other people can get a better understanding of where you're going and where you're coming from, right? And it's good to get to this point. It's good to get to this point, right? But remember, what's the purpose of communication? The purpose of communication is so we can get the information to the other person so they can understand us, right? But ultimately, you also want to be in relationship with that person in some way, shape, or form. Because why would I want to? I mean, unless I'm teaching, like, so in this case, this is right here, right? In this session, I can't really build a relationship with you guys individually, right? So there's not much I can do. I can't really move beyond that, just making sure you understand me, right? But as we go up, the next level, relationally intelligent, right? Not only can I say what I want, not only can I be assertive, not only can I be clear, but I can craft my message in such a way with strengthening our connection. So now when I make a request, I'm not just making a request until I can get what I want. Now I'm making a request. How can this benefit both of us? I have a request I'm trying to make to you. How can it benefit both of us so both of us win? Because ultimately, that's for us to have a connection, to have a relationship. We both have to win. Can't be one-sided, right? And then finally, you get to the highest level, right? The highest level of communication sovereignty, and that's transformational, right? That's when you can actually get in front of a crowd, you can get in front of people, and you can shift their mood, you can shift their thoughts, you can shift their perspective, right? And then you see that in like powerful speakers. You see that in a Tony Robbins. You see that in a Dr. Eric Thomas. Like, people will go to their conferences and they'll be changed. You see that in an Inky Johnson or a Les Brown or Ed Milet or a Tom Bayou or you name it, right? I can list a whole bunch of people. This is the highest level when it's transformational, because now you get out there and you share your message and lives are changed. You're literally able to convey the message in such a way that you tap into other people's nervous systems. That's powerful. That's sovereignty, right? And that's the level that we all want to make sure. We want to make sure you guys get to that level.
Right. What are some of the problems that you see? I mean, here's the thing. We can talk about these steps that we have on the screen right now. We can talk about the level one, the silence where you started out. We can talk about level two, being self-oriented. Level three, the being assertive with your communication. And level four, relationally intelligent. And level five is going to be transformational. Where do you see most people have the hardest time understanding what level they're at and where to move from, right? Because they might be in a situation right now. Oh, I can relate to level five. I'm not there yet. What would be the biggest step? Because we want to show them how to do it verbally right now,
So
in
I
a
mean,
sense.
that really depends on the context, right?
Correct.
So it would depend on the man and where he is and what he's trying to accomplish and where he is in this whole hierarchy, right? So if a man is in the first level trying to get to the second level, right, he might be terrified of rejection, right?
Okay.
So
Good
in
example.
that sense, we would have to work on the rejection aspect, right?
Okay.
You know, but someone who's on a level four and they're great with relational, they can make relationships and things of that nature, but they're struggling to command a room, right? And actually engage the nervous system. They might need more like specialized skill work, right? Because like you
Okay.
have the passion, right? There's a lot. I know we've seen a lot of people, right, that have the passion and they really want to do something, but they don't. They need the skills to take that, and then fine tune it in such a way where now I can actually affect the crowd like I want to affect the crowd. And that's
Correct.
more skill work. So it really depends on where the man is. It depends on what he's struggling with. And to say, okay, what's the main thing that's keeping him from going from one level to the next level? Because the fact of the
Beautiful.
matter is, as you go up in levels, it changes as to how you get to the next level. So the same thing you did get from level one to level two, it's not going to help you get from two to three. It's not going to help you get from four to
No.
five. It's a new skill, it's a new issue, it's a new
Yep.
boundary, it's a new thing you have to kind of branch out and do, right? So, so
I
it,
mean,
it
I
all,
get it. I
yeah.
get that whole completely because for guys that's watching this on the live show on this workshop, if you're in a situation where you want to move up levels, but you just don't know how to do it, this is why we have head on over to assessment boundaries and brotherhood and reach out to see where we can help, what level you can at, and where we can put you on a different level. It's like working out, right? It's like lifting weights. You might be stuck at a certain amount of bench press, so you're gonna have techniques that you're gonna have psychologically, physically, and technically to move the better weight, the next weight. It's the same thing emotionally and all this becoming the sovereign man. It's just you need somebody to guide you, to support you, been where you've been, and actually know what they're doing with the receipts to back it all up. Then this is
Mm-hmm.
why we provide these type of workshops because in this is what our third workshop. In a few months, we're going to be having live workshops where you can attend over conference software, or you can attend if you're in the Vegas area, come see us live because venues are made already, right? Platforms are already done. It's just a matter of what do you want in your life? Do you want to be, or do you understand where you're at and where you want to be emotionally? Slide.
All right.
I like this. I get to say slide.
All right. So
Let me get
the
the slide up.
anatomy of conflict, right? And so first, let me say this. Yeah, conflict. We've been socialized to believe conflict is bad. Conflict isn't necessarily bad. Conflict
Mm-mm.
simply means things aren't lining up, right? That's it, right? That's all it means. Things aren't lining up, and so now we have to pause and find out. Okay, how can we get it so we're on the same page? And in your any relationship, if there's gonna be depth, obviously, especially romantic relationships, you're going to have conflict. There's no such thing as a good, healthy, strong relationship that doesn't have conflict,
Without it,
right?
yep.
If there's no conflict, there's no depth. We're two complete, totally different individuals. And if a couple tells me, yeah, we never have conflict, then I would say, yeah,
Something
there's
wrong.
probably no growth. There's probably no
Yeah, there's
growth.
no,
Chances are you're on your way out. That's just the fact of the matter, right? So I
absolutely.
want to put that disclaimer out there. So so let's look at it, right? So when it comes to conflict, you have the truth, right? That's the objective facts of a situation, right? So if it's someone came home late, you came home late, that's objective. The truth is anybody could look at it and they could all see the same thing. This is a big part of communication as well. We'll get into it as well. But when they be able to learn and state the situation objectively, not subjectively, objectively, because a lot of times we go wrong
Objectively.
right here We don't operate in truth. We operate in subjectivity. And then we say, oh, you don't care about me
Ooh.
because you came home late, or you were probably out there cheating, or you were probably out there. And it's like, that's all subjective. Anybody, there's a million people that look at that same situation and be like, no, it could have been this, it could have been that. So the first part of conflict, what is the truth? What is the objective, observable facts of this situation? That's the first thing, right? The next thing you have to recognize is, what is your emotional state, right? What emotion did this thing, right? Good, man, you went through a perspective. This objective truth went through your perspective. Now it's subjective based off your experiences, and it's going to generate emotion. You got to be able to recognize what that is, right? You got to be able to recognize what that is so you can convey it to the other person. And unfortunately, a lot of times we as men, we're so disconnected from our emotions, or think we shouldn't have them, that we can't even do this part. We can't even really articulate the emotion. Are we hurt? Are we sad? Are we disappointed? Are we jealous? Are we envious? You know, are we happy? Oh, like, what is the emotion? Are we scared? Is there anxiety? Like, we can't even get to that point. So it's critical to know how to even learn about emotions so you can understand what's going on inside them, the signs, the symptoms, all that, because every emotion has signs and symptoms, physically, biologically, and as far as that stuff showing up, right? So it's good you got to know that, right, in order to really handle conflict, right? And then you got to know the need, right? What's the actionable request that you're making to help resolve this, right? What would make this better? Right. So once you go through that process, you have to understand what that is, because if you don't know what you need, then you cannot get help. Even if you have the objective truth, even if you know your emotions, if you don't know what you need to resolve the situation, you cannot get help. It's really important. Right. And as it says over here, when it comes to every unresolved conflict, right, is probably missing one of these elements or all these elements. You're stating the truth, well, either without emotion, and so it reads as cold, right? So you're just trying to be logical, like, you know, like a Star Trek character, right? Like that doesn't work, right? Because no one's disconnected from the emotion, right? Right? You're expressing the emotion without a clear need, without a clear need, and it reads as complaining, right? So it says, you know, oh my gosh, you know, you're never intimate with me, and you know, and you this and this and that, and you always do this and you always do that, and maybe you heard someone say, okay, well, what do you want me to do? You know, and that's just it. You know, you just keep complaining and going because you're not stating any needs, right? And stating a need without truth, reads as control, right? So you just
repeat that. That was a deep one.
So stating a need without truth, and it reads as controlling. So you need to make sure you're not talking to those guys anymore. Point blank, period. Like, that's it. You're not talking to them. Right? I don't want to hear any explanation. I don't want to hear it. You just better stop doing that. You better text me when you get off of work. You know, it's like, wait a second, hold on now. Wait, I'm a
I see all kinds of different stuff when you say that. Jeez.
No, who you think you're talking to, right?
Yeah, what is it? What
Who do you think you're talking to? You know?
Like, what? Wait, what?
You know, Gordon, I would also add a bonus to this as well. All right.
Absolutely.
Stating the truth subjectively instead of objectively, right? Well, this is just what it means, and this is what it is, and this is that. And it's like, whoa, pause. You start telling people what they think, what they feel, as if you're God. And
it's real.
That's a big issue. So I would say unresolved conflict has all those, either one or all of those four things. And that's why they keep getting swept under the rug, and you still don't get your needs met, right?
So, I mean, but understand, I need to understand this, right? When somebody's not getting their needs met in that situation, what are some of the things that, as this workshop is providing, communicating that? What would be an example?
An example, I think we'll actually get to that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's either the next slide or coming up soon.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. How to go about it?
Slide.
Yep, perfect. Yep, see.
There it is. Yep, see.
So,
the slide up, right
according to your question, right? To your question,
the SIR framework.
This is the SIR framework. I created it, and it's it's a variation of I statements. And the whole purpose of it is, again, for you to be able to take in the information, understand yourself, know what you're trying to convey, and then learn how to convey it so it can be perceived the right way. So the first part is, we talked about the conflict, right? The first part is the situation. What is the objective situation that took place? Not what you think happened, not what you assume happened, what happened. And here's the key note that you know you're doing it the right way. If every single other person on the planet would look at it and say, yep, that happened, right? Not interpretation. When the dishes were left in the sink last night, could everybody in the world look at the sink, the dishes in the sink, and say, yeah, no, they were in there last night? You know, when you came home late for work, would everybody would look and say, yeah, you know, you did come home. You usually come home at 8, came home at 9, right? You know, when you forgot the anniversary, right? You know, yeah, no, your anniversary was on the 25th to 26th. You didn't do anything. That is objective. That's how you know it is objective, right? And so it's critical to be able to state the situation like that, because if you don't state it like that, you're going to come off as blaming the other person. It's going to shut them down almost immediately. The next
Oh,
step is you want to make sure that you're able to convey your emotions properly,
emotion.
right? That means you have to know what emotions you're feeling, right? That means you have to have a working knowledge of emotions. What does it mean to hurt? What does that mean? What's the message behind hurt? What are the symptoms of that? What's the message behind anxiety? What's the symptoms of that? Or depression / overwhelm or disappointment or whatever it is, right? Jealousy, you name it. If you don't have a working knowledge of emotions, you're going to get stuck here every time. You're going to get stuck here every time. You have to have a working knowledge of emotions and using emotion words. It's critical to use emotion words, right? And the next part is the request. I'm sorry, not the request.
Yeah, request.
Yeah, no, we have to change that. It's actually not a request. It's actually the reason.
Reasoning. Okay.
Reason.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll fix this. This is a typo.
That's all right. Yeah.
But it's the reason, right? You know, what is the reason, you know, that this happened? Why did it generate? Why did this objective situation generate this emotion inside of you? Right? This is helping the person to understand what is going on, why you're bothered, what's going on. That's what that part is, right? And then it would go on to the request, right? Where you would be able to then share, hey, this is what I would want. This is what would make it better in the future. This is what I desire for both of us. How can we come together to make this thing happen, right? And then at that point, then you get the result, right? So that's the framework that you would go through when you're communicating your needs, when you're communicating about an issue or a problem. That's the framework you would go through so that you're not triggering the other person. You're staying focused on yourself. You're being clear with your communication. And I'll be honest, when you really know how to communicate, it shouldn't take you 15 minutes to share what you're thinking and feeling.
No, yeah.
You should be able to communicate your thought, your feeling, what you want, the reason behind it. You should be able to communicate that within minutes. I'm literally no more than 3. If you're going beyond that time, and 3 is generous. If you're going beyond that time, you're struggling with articulation. You need to take some time and work on that. Even if you need to write it out and workshop it first, because there's no harm or no foul in doing that. But you got to do that to be able to articulate yourself and learn how to articulate yourself the right way.
So how? Let me ask you. Let me. I took the slides down for just so you know. So how can you apply the SIR method to go over it for the people that's watching this in a situation that they can apply it? Like, I'll give you the situation, right? You might have a situation, you might be arguing with your kids or say a coaching on the baseball field, any field, right? How can someone apply this trademark method of yours, the SIR method, to their life to become better communicators and really level up themselves emotionally?
Wow. So let's use the kid example, right? So let's say the kid is not following directions. They're not cleaning their room clean, right? And so what you would do talking to your kid, you would say, hey, son, you know, I want to talk to you real quick. Hey, listen, you know, I noticed your room's not clean. And, you know, I know we talked about this before, right? Objective. Someone can look at the room and say, oh, it's not clean, right? You know, and when I say obviously by clean, I mean everything's off the floor, things like that. Let's just use that as a working example. Everything's off the floor to where it's supposed to be in its place, right? Hey, son, you know, I noticed we talked about this, about your room getting clean, and it's not clean. It looks like you didn't, you know, clean your room. And I'll be honest, son, that makes me feel makes me feel like disrespected, makes me feel disappointed.
Okay.
You know, because it seems like to me, this is how I'm taking it. You know, it seems like to me that like you just don't like care about what I'm saying, or like what I'm saying is not important, or something along those lines, right? And so what I would like for us to do is, for one, talk about, like, I want to get your perspective on this as to why your room's not being clean, but also
Nice.
talk about what's keeping you from getting your room clean, right? So that took, I don't even know if that took a full minute, but let's just say
No,
it took a minute. Let's say it took a minute and 30. That's conveyed very clearly to my son
absolutely. Yeah.
what's going on, what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, the reason I'm experiencing, what I'd like to do on the other side, right? That
Beautiful.
that that's what we just did. Did I attack my son? Did I say he's
No.
lazy? Did I say he's dirty? Did I say he doesn't listen? Did I say he always does? No. I stayed focused on me. This is what I'm experiencing. This is how
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing it. This is the reason I'm seeing it this way. This is what I would like for us to do. Right. So that's the point we want to get to. And that was, honestly, that's level 4, right? That's a level 4 right
Okay.
there, to let you guys see that. Like, that's what level 4 looks like, right? Because I'm building a stronger connection. A lot of times as parents, we stay at level 3, sometimes at level 2, right? A lot of parents stay at level 2. Level 4 is, hey, I see you as a human. Let's build this connection, right? Let's see what's going on. So that's what that would look like, Gordon.
I mean, that's perfect, because if leave it in the comments, guys, right now, because if you're in a situation where you're blaming, you're putting everything else that's directly on the other person that you're trying to communicate with, you're not even doing it clearly, because you're not using, basically, like Doc said, the I statements or the SIR method, because you're not being objective, you're being subjective to everything. You're not reasoning, and the result is saying, because everything goes thrown out the window when you're trying to force somebody and blame them, deflect, and all this other crap that comes
Yeah.
along with it, right? Because understanding that this method took, instead of getting all worked up emotionally and stuff, and not at the end of it all, if you're not doing it clearly, nobody's going to win. And you can do
Yeah.
this with management team, being a CEO, the kids, your spouse, your coworkers, everybody. And
Yeah.
it always, and guess what's up? The level of emotional control that you're going to have by doing that is going to let you hit it out of the park all the
Every time.
time,
Every time.
right?
Every
How
time.
do I know this? Because I've done it with the worst of the worst, and I've done it with the best of the best.
Yeah.
Because when you talk to millionaires, billionaires, including and convicts and people in gangs, they all relate the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Because why? I'm not attacking them.
Yeah.
I'm actually controlling myself. And
Yeah.
that's what's going to make the difference for when you work with us, when you can have these techniques with the method that Doc created with coaching from us. Because at the end of it all, you're going to see better results, not just in why you're trying to communicate. You're going to see better results in yourself, and it's going to become a changed behavior. And you're going to be like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Mm-hmm. True. That's true.
That's true, right, Doc?
Very true. Yes.
Beautiful example, though. Beautiful example. Oh,
So
look at this
we're
slide.
gonna speed through this, Jordan, because we
Okay.
just kind of went over it. So just the different phases, right?
Yep.
So the first one's a situation. We talked about that, guys. Just being objective. Again, if you want the slides, you're more than welcome to
Mhm.
get them. Just reach out to us. We'll get them to you. So you can look over this. For those who can't see it. So essentially, you want the situation. You'll state it objectively. State it
Correct.
objectively. No assumption, no blame, no it needs to, every single person should look at it the exact same way. Very, very important, right? The emotion, like I was saying, right? You gotta have the emotional intelligence and know the lingo and know the words and know what's going on inside you and tie it to that emotion, right? To that word, so you can convey it to the other person. Right. So you need to know hurt, sad, angry, frustrated, depressed, overwhelmed, happy, joy, like whatever. You need to learn those words. It's really important for you to learn those words. All right. All right. And so, and I know this slide's a little bit different. It should be the reason, right? It should be the
Yeah.
reason, right? The request would actually come later, but the reason. What is causing that emotional response? How is this objective situation generating this emotion? That's the part you got to know, right? Oh, because of this or because of that, or I feel like I wasn't listened to, or I felt like disregarded or dismissed, or whatever the case may be, right? And again, it's out of order,
That's
but
fine. Yep.
the requests that you make and the requests that you make that is what goes out on. That's when you get to the point where it's like, hey, this is what I need. How can we make this happen? How can we work together so both of us win? That's what it be. That's what it should be on the other side, right? Okay.
Beautiful. Is that
Yeah.
was that face? Oh, okay. Here we got that.
Yeah. All right. So, all right. The other half of sovereignty is receiving truth. Now, this part's important as well, right? Because the fact of the matter is, a sovereign man if you think about a king has to have advisors. I'd say like, hey, man, that wasn't the best choice, right? We're not here to teach you how to be perfect. It's not possible. We're here to teach you how to be sovereign. And at being a sovereign man, you got to be able to receive truth. If someone's telling you something, you got to be able to receive it, right? You don't want to just block everything out and no, I'm just, no. You got to be able to say, okay, let me hear you out. Let me hear that perspective. Let me see where you're coming from. All right, you say you don't like my idea? Tell me a little bit more. What part of it don't you like? You know how many times we've been in conversations with other people, and I can speak for Gordon on this as well, because I know for sure we've been in conversations where we shared an idea or shared a thought, and someone's like, hey, you thought about possibly doing this? Adding that to it? Hey, oh, the way you're going about that, hey, you might want to do this first, and we're like, oh, shoot, that's a good point. You're right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that first. Oh, I need to do that. That's what a sovereign man is able to do. They're able to receive truth. They're able to shift their perspective based off new information, right? So it's not this like you see the people in politics, like they have these hard divides where it's like, oh, I'm just going to believe what I believe, regardless of the information that I get. I'm going to block out all information like this wall right here. I'm going to block everything out, even if it makes sense, because I just want to believe what I want to believe. That's not a sovereign man. That's a weak man. That's a man who's weak. A man who's scared to have his beliefs challenged is a weak man.
It's a weak man. I believe that 100%.
It's just the truth, right? Someone should be able to challenge. If your belief holds up to scrutiny, then it's okay, great, right?
Exactly.
So for instance, my faith in God. You want to come and challenge it and talk about, Islam. You want to talk about, atheism. You want to talk about all that. Feel free. Bring it. I'm not scared, because I know what I stand on. I know what's true, So, but if I'm now scared, now I'm going to start attacking you back. Now I'm going to start yelling and screaming back and forth. Now I'm going to block out all information, right? Now I'm not going to go maybe question myself. Oh man, maybe I need to check this out and look at it and then reaffirms it, because that's what happened. There's times people say something to me. I go back and check it out. Oh no. Boom. No, yeah, it's actually this. So it's critical for us. If you want to be a sovereign man, you got to learn how to receive truth. You got to learn how to take information in, even if it's uncomfortable, and learn how to sit with it and process it. Right. And as you see in the slides, it's like the words and the tone and things like that. I'm not saying that people talk to you any kind of way. However, sometimes even if you walk away from that situation, you got to take the information. Okay, is there any truth to what they were saying? Is there anything that they said, even if they didn't say it the right way, is there anything they were saying that's true that I could use to better myself and become a better man? We got to get to that point. That's the other half of sovereignty, right? Being able to receive truth.
Because once you get to that point, you want to know what these people, what the other person, where they got it derived from, what kind of experience they had, what kind of situation they were put in. And then you can kind of like empathize with them, because it's like, oh, I never been through that. I never even looked at that angle. Because if you can look at that angle and be open to it, then you can be, it's not a deal. It's nothing wrong with debating, having your own beliefs. Try living with criminals that have their own religions, their own backgrounds, their own experiences, and then protecting their block. And then if you don't understand it, or understand, I'm saying like politics, like you said, if you don't understand it and can relate to it, and give them their belief, but you can actually have an open debate or speak about it with respect, without yelling, shouting, and all this other crap, then you're in the right place, in your right frame of mind for yourself. And that's what we want to get you to.
And I also say this as well. You use the word debate, and I think it's important because not in the presentation, but there's a difference between communicating and debating.
Yeah, very big.
Debating is you're not trying to understand the other person. That's not the goal. The goal in a debate is to win, right? So if you are in a debate, you better make sure that both of you are on the same page, that this is what is going on. The goal is not for me to change my mind. The goal is for me to prove you wrong. Communication is about understanding.
It's different.
And so, and a big part of that, right, is being able to listen, because this is essentially what this is.
Oh, 100%.
You got to be able to listen without becoming defensive. That's why the emotional regulation is so important. And I tell people the most important part of communication is not the speaking part. While the speaking part is important, it's the listening part.
Listening.
Because if you know how to listen and you know how to regulate yourself, that even if there's a poor delivery, you can pull it apart. I tell people that come into my office all the time, just talk. My job is to listen and disseminate all the information. So people will come and just do all this stuff out here. But because I know how to listen, I know how to understand, pick things out, put these things together, and package your message back to them. They spoke for 20 minutes. I gave it back to them in less than 30 seconds, right? That's the power of being able to listen, right? So it's critical for you to do it. So it's not just for you, but it's also so you can understand other people, right? So becoming defensive, that's not what a sovereign man does. A sovereign man is able to regulate himself, listen accordingly, and then again, relay that message back to the other person to show that understanding. And if it does get to the point where it's a lot of disrespect, calling you names, things like a lot of criticism and contempt, you, sir, as again, have the boundaries. You step away, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, because you're human too. And you can shut down and get right back to where you used to be. So the listening portion is really, really important, right?
I mean, I just want to say this before we go to the next slide, right? In a world of constant pings, attention, distractions, are you truly listening or are you just wanting to speak, right? You got to understand which phase you're going to be in your growth on the steps, on the ladders, on the SIR method that we already talked about. Because if you want to elevate your speaking, you got to elevate the more listening, not just to speak. Because like Doc said, the connections that you make are going to be made from listening and portraying the communication level that you want to do using these slides that we just did. All right. Slide.
And I also say this as well, when it comes to communication, guys, the thing is, if you don't know how to listen, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to connect with other people.
Absolutely.
Because how can you connect with them if you don't know what their needs are, if you don't know where they're coming from, you don't understand them? A lot of you are struggling in your marriages because you're not listening to your wife. You don't, she might be telling you, right? And she might be telling you exactly what her needs are, but because you're not listening properly, you're not able to meet those needs. Something very simple. A lot of women just want to talk and express what they're thinking and feeling. They don't want solutions. Us as guys, we're solution focused a lot of times.
Right.
What we'll do is stop talking to the woman at work. If she's bothering you, stop talking to her. Just go do this. Let's go plan with plan your money out better. This, that. And she's like, you never listen. You don't understand. Now you're in an argument and you're sitting there confused, like, you have a problem. Just solve the problem. Why are we talking about it? Because you're not solving the right problem.
You're not solving.
She's able to handle all that already. She just needs someone to empathize with her. That was the real issue. So, but if you don't listen, you'll never get that. Same thing with your kids. Same thing with your employees. Same thing with your coworkers and your friends and your congregation and your group and anybody else. If you don't learn to listen, you cannot help people effectively. Point blank, period. Right.
Yeah, right. I mean, it comes to the next slide. I'm going to put this up with the slide. Guys, if you're watching this on TikTok, head on over to YouTube or the Facebook channel, right? Because you're going to be the slides, because the slides this is a live workshop, because the dream outcome we want for you for the listening and everything else, right? You want to master your own techniques for deep, comprehensive retention in your style, right? You want to develop stronger objectivity to be able to do things for yourself so that you can have the people you're communicating with what you trying to convey, right? Stop worrying about all the other fluff that's going on, because it's noise. Because even with everything else, you can prevent misunderstandings and improve the decision-making together as a team, as a relationship for yourself. Because if not, that's what happens. Look at that slide. Here is a slide. All right, here we go. I think
we're kind of wrapping it up with this one,
okay.
Y'all, because we're coming to the end. It seems. Well, I'm just saying, because so when it comes to the embodiment of sovereignty, right? So first and foremost, you got to be sovereign. You got to be in full control of yourself, right? You got to be in full control of yourself, and that's where we're talking about the emotion regulation, right? We're doing the breath work, being mindful. Doing that puts you in the driver's seat of yourself, so you know exactly what's going on. If anyone who's ever done meditation, when you really start doing it and getting the hang of it, you'll start being able to feel every single part of your body whenever and however you want to. That's the level of sovereignty and control we're looking for. But until you sit down and start doing the work, I know we didn't talk about meditation in this, but we talked about the breath work. That's a phenomenal start. When you
Yep.
start doing the breath work and you start recognizing how to regulate your nervous system and what's going on, then now because guess what? There's no such thing as 0 to 60. I'm gonna let you know that right now. This is coming to me right now, fresh off the presses, right? There's no such thing as 0 to 60. What there is I'm not regulated and all this stuff is happening and I'm not recognizing it's happening. And because I'm not recognizing it's happening, now it looks like I'm at 60. But what you don't recognize is that the moment they came, you became defensive, you were already starting to move. And
Yep.
then they started saying some more and they were moving some more. And then you were moving some more, but you weren't recognizing it. You were suppressing it because that's what a man's supposed to do. And then but that's all said and done, boom, you explode. Right? Because you're not regulating yourself. You're not knowing yourself. You're not working through. You're not sovereign in your own body. So the first things first, you got to get sovereign in yourself and get that emotional regulation under control. Learn the verbiage. Really critical for you to understand that, right? Then we talk about the conflict, right? And how to use the SIR method, kind of combine them together, right? Conflict, there's truth, right? There's the emotion that comes from that truth, right? And then what is your need, right? All conflict has that same thing. Hey, this is what happened. This is what it made us feel. This is everything we need in order to resolve it, right? All conflict goes to that same cycle. And then when it comes to speaking and listening, we went over that situation, emotion, reason, request. We went over all that. When you learn how to master your messaging, you can get what you want to say out in 30 seconds or less, honestly, right? If you need time to do that, take some time, right? Write it out. Have ChatGPT help you, journal about it. Get your stuff out first and then condense the message. Whatever you got to do to condense that message so it's concise and clear, that the other person understands where you're coming from. Really important. And then the last part is, guys, making sure you know how to listen. Regulate yourself. Learn how to listen. Listen to understand, not to respond. Say it one more time. Listen to understand, not respond. That's the most important thing, right? And if you guys are doing all this, your communication is going to be on point. But if you need help with the communication, right? If you need help with that, right? You reach out and let us know. Let us know what stage you're in. Are you in stage 1? Are you stage 2, 3, 4? You want to go to 5? Like, let us know where you are so we can help you get to that next level so you can start making sure you're that sovereign man and that you're not hiding your needs, but you're making them clear and you're letting them be known and you have your boundaries and you're building strong relationships with the people that are most important in your life.
And that's what matters the most, because you have to claim the pen, guys. If you're not claiming the pen and what you hold is not ink, it is basically agency and control. You no longer wait, like Doc said, for the permission to gain the confidence, to gain everything else that we did in this workshop, from the 6 method to the SIR method to the results to subjectivity. We can teach you all of this, but if you don't put in the work and you don't want it, guess what happens? Nothing is going to move. And then your voice, you turn your voice basically and your actions into the authority. You become intentional. You become more confident. You become more in control of everything around you. And guess what happens? People will respect you more for the command you have of yourself, because you are in control of yourself versus trying to deflect and put everything else on everything, right? Guys, if you want the slides for this, because these slides are smoking, actually, right? Doc said, let me turn these slides off, right? And if you want us, we had a lot of guests over here today to figure out. If you want the slides, go on to Boundaries and Brotherhood. I'm going to leave a link in there for a PDF, probably be a good Google slide, and probably in about 3 hours after I pick up the kids. But I just wanted to say, go on to head on over to assessment.boundariesandbrotherhood.com and join the community. See where you're at. See where we can help you in the levels of this game. Because once this whole group comes together, we're going to be talking about not just being a better man for yourself, your family, and whoever else. You're going to be a better man for business, relationships, using the tools you have in the world right now. We're going to talk about where you're not going to be judged. You're going to be encouraged to be yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you have men that's on the same level, the synergy there, or people that's on the same level in a small little intimate atmosphere, you can be yourself and bounce ideas off around. And we're going to have people that come in with authoritative professional measures, where it's just grouped by us. Doc, this is a pretty damn good one, if I do say so myself, right?
Yeah.
Any last words for this workshop?
Well, I'll say, to be honest, guys, we haven't even scratched the surface for any of this.
Not even.
Be 100% honest, and I would tell you the honest truth. we haven't scratched the surface.
No.
We have not scratched the surface.
No.
If we were
So
really,
much more.
if this is a live workshop, guys, then we would have been doing exercises. We would have been sharing stories. We would have been putting things into practice. We would have been doing all these things, right? So to give you the actual tools necessary to become the sovereign man. So, but we need y'all support. We need y'all to come out. We need y'all to share these videos. We need y'all to like. We need y'all to make comments. We need y'all to do the assessment. That way we can come together and do those things, and they really help you get to that next level, right? So y'all reach out. We're here to help. Whatever you need, we're here to get you that next level. And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
The titty tip?
The very, very, like, I could cut it off with a knife and hold it in my hand like that.
Right now, this is the way I'm looking at it. There's a big mountain at the top, at the precipice of everything else. We're at the gravel section at the bottom. Because I know what it takes to be there. And I've started at the bottom. So has Doc. This is where we can get you. Guys, this is Gordon Watt from Boundaries and Brotherhood. If you're not, please share the subscription with somebody else. I'm not saying buy the subscription. Give the link for the subscription and share it, guys, because we are getting a lot of comments right now with thank you for not just this, the faces videos, the motivational, the things that hit home. And if not, guys, we might not be for everybody, but at the same time, we're here to help men and other people gain the potential and walk in their true sovereign life, become the 11th man that you truly came out when you did.
Yeah,
guys. This is Gordon Watt from Boundaries and Brotherhood, and we see you next week, same time.
And I'll say this, this is Dr. Keith Fairclough as well. And I just want to say this, while, to what Gordon said about being for everybody, we're here. You gotta be willing to do the work. I said that in the very beginning, and I'll continue to say it. If you're looking for some quick fix, if you're looking for some magic pill, if you're looking for some confidence Ozempic, this isn't it. Right? This isn't it. I'm sorry, it's not. But if you're really willing to do the work, if you're willing to become the man that you're supposed to be, then this is the place for you. If you really want, if you're saying, hey, I'm willing to pull out all the stops, David Goggins style, then this is for you, right? Not I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this.
Oh, geez.
Uncomfortable and not that. If that's what you're on, this isn't for you. I promise this isn't for you. I'm sure you can find someone else that's on that. We're not on that. We're here for you to do the work. If you're willing to do the work, you can get the change. You could be the sovereign man in the area of your life. So, Dr.
I'm going to use that.
Feel free.
Yeah. Guys, comment to get the PDF and the slides for the rest of the show. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for letting us serve you. And we'll see you next week. Aloha. Bye.
Y'all take care.